part of our roundtable discussion focuses on the critically important issue of the declining number of advisors delivering life insurance advice in Australia, both the declining number of specialist risk advisors as well as the declining number of generalist advisors who include life insurance in their advice proposition. The panel looks at how the industry can both recruit more specialist risk advisors into the sector, how that can happen, but also they talk about how the industry or what the industry needs to do in order to make it easier and less challenging for generalist advisors to actually provide life insurance advice.
Perhaps then, Phil, if you could start us off and we'll go around the table. Please just chime in whenever you wish. But let's have a chat about that. How can the industry recruit more advisors to deliver life insurance advice?
Okay, so that's quite a substantial challenge. Let's look at the bigger picture, which is how many advisors we have overall, and then we can talk about risk specialists. So we all know what's happened to advisor numbers. It's come down from 28,800 down to it will be below 16,000 within a week or so. And the projections are that it will continue to go lower. There's a couple of factors that are in play that might help turn that curve sooner rather than later, which is the consultation around the education standard, and also if the quality of advice review can deliver some fundamental reforms that make advice easier to provide and therefore more profitable. So we know where the numbers have been heading and we know they are going to continue to go lower. What we've got to do is trying to hold on to as many of the quality existing advisors as we can, and the education standard change will hopefully address that. But then we've also got to make sure that we get more newcomers, new entrants into the advice profession. Now, the education proposals that the government's floated to give more flexibility around the qualification pathway that people can come in through is really important. I'm conscious that we have a limited number of universities that have a strong focus in financial advice, but that means people who have come through all of the other universities really are not eligible to become an advice professional without doing substantial further study. So we need to address that, and we hope the government will address that through the education standard changes. If we narrow in and we focus on how do we get more advisors to become risk specialists, that's, I think, where the biggest challenge is now.
Is that the question, or is it to get more advisors simply to talk about risk that perhaps don't at the moment, as opposed to just becoming risk specialists?
Yes, but what we've actually seen is the generalists have started to leave the space. So they are now not scoping it out of their advice. They are referring back to the client to deal with, or they have arrangements in place with risk specialists. So there's a few key things that have changed the generalist space, and that's been the LIF reforms, the added compliance obligations, and I think the IDII changes have made it more challenging to be on top of all the product details to be comfortable to operate in this space. So we're seeing all of those things in play. It's meant that generalists have said, well, this is a bit tough. I'm going to find another way of doing this. Now we need to start to bring the generalists back into the risk space, and hopefully that will be achieved through making it easier. Quality advice review changes can hopefully make it easier and then make it more economically viable. And one of the things that I focus on in our advocacy work is looking at the fundamental economics of providing risk advice. And you've got some key supply-demand issues in play here. We've got the fact that you can get 60% commission. You've got very high fixed costs of providing it. How do we change those economic dynamics to make it economically viable to provide risk advice to people who pay lower premiums and therefore generate lower income?
And how do you?
Well, so the QAR will hopefully reduce the cost of providing it, and therefore it opens up. At the moment, a risk advisor is saying, well, the cost of providing advice is $3,000, so my client needs to have a premium of at least $5,000 to make it economically viable. So anyone who has a premium of less than $5,000, the advisor is making an upfront investment in the hope that they will generate a long-term relationship with the client.
That's not ideal, is it, Phil?
No, and this is why that age demographic of 30 to 45, one thing that I would love to see is what has happened to the average age of new clients over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. I suspect the average age of new clients, new business clients, has gone up significantly as advisors have necessarily needed to focus on those who are paying higher premiums to generate sufficient income to make it worthwhile. So if we can reduce the cost of providing advice, then hopefully we can open up the attractive clientele to be a much broader and younger group.
All right then. So Chloe, with your licensee hat on, or whichever hat you prefer to wear, what's your take on that? And are there other avenues, for example, paraplanner pathway to as an entry point to becoming an advisor to fill that need for more specialist risk advisors?
Yeah, I'll take the last point first. I think there's going to be some concern around that paraplanner pathway, particularly as we look to reduce some of the complexity of the paperwork that we need to do to get through to get it done. So it's probably less attractive for a paraplanner to go, hey, I'll invest my time to be a paraplanner when potentially that's becoming less of a need, potentially.
Yeah.
Not now.
Right.
But paraplanners typically are good at the strategy stuff, maybe not necessarily some of the sales skills that we'd like to see in them. So whilst it's a great pathway, I think it's more key to get to the right people early through universities, through engagement, through industry advocacy, and show them and take them and those young people on a journey as to what this industry can actually provide. Because us around this table understand that because we've lived it. If you look at our industry from an outsider looking in, you'd sort of go, ouch, it's a lot of work to do, what am I going to get on the other end? I think we've got a good story to tell there, but we don't particularly do that well. And you alluded to it, Jamie, we are really focused on our people, because if we're clear on what it is we need to do to thrive as a business and provide trusted advice, I think we can actually break it into two. There is an element where there's clients we can't afford to service. In today's environment, we just simply can't do it. We'll go broke. So we still need a solution for them, and I think that's where the technology piece comes in. There's some, I don't necessarily think the direct road is where we want to go, but I think there's something there that we need some more industry work around how we deliver advice to mums and dads consistently well, gives them a really great outcome, but it's simple.
All right then. So you've mentioned technology, and I was going to throw to you in the next instance anyway, Brett, perhaps, however, with your specialist risk advisor hat on, just to talk about this current conversation about the need to find a way to recruit more risk specialist advisors, but also with regard to the notion of technology, and you have an involvement in that at the moment. What's your take on things so far?
We've spent a bit of time understanding what's happened and where the market's at the moment. Recent industry data has shown that yes, there's 15, 16, 17,000 advisors, whatever the number is, but the actual, who's out there seeing new clients and helping new clients, like sort of 150 advisors are writing a quarter of all new business, and then the next quarter is written by 500 advisors, and then the next quarter is written by sort of circa 1,100 advisors. So you've got 75% of the market being written by 1,700 advisors, and there's another 5,000 that sit there and write the last quarter of business. So 7,000 are doing something, but we've got a very small number doing majority of the work. For how do we grow? Like what Phil alluded to, we're not going to get there overnight. You just don't go and recruit 10,000 advisors to start writing risk again. You need to increase the capacity of who's already there and who's already passionate and who's already doing it.
So it's more productivity from the existing cohort of advisors.
Yeah,
and
then
risk.
Yeah, and if you fix that productivity issue by focusing on what advisors want to do. So as an advisor, what do I want to do? I want to be able to get out of bed every day, help as many clients as I can, do it profitably, and not risk losing my house every time I open my mouth to give advice.
Wearing your advisor cap at the moment, do you feel good when you get up out of bed in the morning?
No.
And why is that?
It's too hard. So I'm not afraid of a 10, 12, 14 hour day, but I want to be doing stuff that I love, which is talking to clients and helping them, not doing stuff that has little perceived value. And that's where the whole technology piece comes in that advisor-led, technology-driven is the model that works. So you can have the technology doing the stuff that has little perceived value to the client, but it's the stuff that has to be done to prove best interest or show good advice. And then you have the advisor leading it, articulating the value, the need, providing that service, maintaining that relationship, and they can do that. If you can use technology to cut the cost, which is what we're focusing on by cutting the cost by 90%, I can see 10 times the number of clients that I'm doing now.
All right, so we will continue to explore technology a little bit more as we go throughout, so we won't end the conversation there, we'll just pause it for the time being.
Yeah, no trouble.
But are you confident that there will, in terms of thriving into the future, with what you see in the future, that you will feel okay waking up in the morning as a risk-focused advisor in the future?
100%, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I'm obviously very bullish on the future. Life insurance is the only thing I know. I've got 30 years to go until I retire, so that's one of the reasons why we're so focused on innovation and creating that platform for risk advice so that we can thrive into the future. And getting back to what I said before about what do advisors want to be able to do, that's where we sat down and said, well, what do we need to do as technology providers to enable them to thrive and do what they want to do into the future, which is obviously help protect more Australians and do it easier.
All right,
Peter, I think the thing there as well is, and I spoke about the ecosystem, and we are in an ecosystem of which we all play an important part, and there's huge connectivity, but what we've got to do is we've got to strengthen and evolve the ecosystem itself, which means some of the settings that allow the delivery of advice and some of the red tape that we've spoken about to be reduced. Advisors, as you said, Jamie, looking at their individual practices and looking for where are there opportunities for greater efficiency and improve that productivity. But then equally, the manufacturing side of things, there's a need to move forward to be delivering a more seamless, efficient, from a time and cost perspective, experience both for existing and new clients. So I think we're all at a point where we've got to lean in to collectively be able to enhance the environment that allows us to be able to operate at scale and to be able to see more clients and be able to provide the advice in a more efficient and effective way. And there are a number of different tools, whether they be the tech piece, whether they be doing the business re-engineering piece, whether it be getting the outcomes we're looking for with some of the changes around the regulatory settings. And for organisations like ours, it's investing appropriately in moving the experience forward.
Okay, and does that also include with organisations such as Integrity Life, greater collaboration between you and your competitors?
I think LifeBid's a fabulous example of that. I think, the way in which we engage with our licensee partners, the way we engage with the association, this is around recognising that this industry has to thrive because the ecosystem's strong. You can't be a superstar in a model where the model is actually struggling or failing. Like, the reality is we need to be moving forward as a collective, and I think there's been some really good examples of that recently, and particularly with the advent of Cali as an example. I think there's another example of where like-minded industry collaboration is very much at the fore. That's the evolution, that's the step forward that I think we'll see more of, and we need to see more of. That's the reality.
We have to, otherwise it's not going to progress, it's not going to move forward. And if you think about the platform space, the platforms have had to get on and move forward and start to work out how do I have a more open API connection into more places that advisors do business with their clients. So we're at that point from an insurance perspective. We don't take that leap and embrace technology and innovation. We can't reconstruct our advice process so it's a better experience and more streamlined. So we have to be at the point now where we take the leap. Otherwise, we will be left behind.